Hare Kṛṣṇa.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Please join us today in the study of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Today we'll be studying chapter 6, Dhyana Yoga. Hare Krishna, please join us for Jai Radha Madhav prayers. So today we'll be studying the study of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Today we'll be studying chapter 6 of Dhyana Yoga. So this is Gita month, right? On 25th of December we'll be reciting whole of Bhagavad Gita and also its glories. So this is preparation for that, so that when we recite, people can relate to the subject matter. So again, in this class today, we are doing chapter by chapter. Chapter 6 is about Dhyana Yoga, where Lord Kṛṣṇa, he hinted in the 5th chapter on this particular yogic process. So again, it is a very scientific process that we'll be studying today. Please join us in the recitation of the first verse of Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, Dhyana Yoga. Shri Bhagwan Uvacha Anashritya Karma Phalam Karyam Karma Karoti Yaha Sasannyasi Cha Yogi Cha Niragnir Na Chakriyaha. Translation by His Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, one who is unattached to the fruits of his work and one who works as he is obligated is in the renounced order of life. And he is the true mystic, not he who lights no fire and performs no duty. Hare Kṛṣṇa. Please join us in the recitation of Guru Pranati to invoke the blessings of Srila Prabhupada and the Acharyas. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Shri Guruve namaha Mukham karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim Yat kripatadaham vande Shri Gurum dīnataranam. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa, Hare Hare, Hare Rāma, Hare Rāma, Rāma Rāma, Hare Hare. Hare Kṛṣṇa. So, sometimes people wonder, Lord Kṛṣṇa is discussing different types of yoga in Bhagavad Gita. And what is the whole program? So Srila Prabhupada, he describes very nicely that the whole program is to spiritualize our very body. So we have this material body and we have to make the best of this bad bargain. And in the very first verse, he is identified who is in the renounced order of life? One who is unattached to the fruits of his labor. So normally we see people, they refer to Bhagavad Gita and they're saying that they are karma yogi. And they're saying that Kṛṣṇa says that you have the right to perform your duties, right? Karmane vadhikaraste. So they're focusing on that. But the latter half of this is mahaphaleshu kadachana. But you are not the proprietor of the fruits of your labor. Yet at the same time, in Karma Kanda, as it is known that people who are conditioned, they think that they are the cause of all their work. And so they want to enjoy the fruits of their labor. And people, they feel that they are making various sacrifices for their family, for their children, by going to work. Yet at the same time, it is said, Lord Kṛṣṇa himself reveals, that all work should be done for his pleasure. And that was the last CE of trance that we covered in the previous chapter, in the peace formula, where we talked about Shanti. Shanti is peace. How can one attain peace? Bhoktaram yagatapsam sarvalok maheshwaram suhidam sarvabhutanam gyatva mam shantim richati. Bhoktaram yagatapsam. So Lord Kṛṣṇa is the benefactor of all sacrifices. And yagya and tapa, all austerities. So when all kind of austerities and sacrifices that we take on, in this life, they are supposed to be made as an offering to Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, Lord Vishnu. And Sarvalok Maheshwaram. Why? Because he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the proprietor of all the material and spiritual universes. And finally, Surhidam Sarva Bhutanam. And he is the he's the beneficiary of all the yajnas, and he's the benefactor of all living entities. He's our best friend. He's our father. He says that aham bij pradhapita. So he is the seed-giving father. And here, Lord Krishna himself is revealing. So again, sometimes people say, oh, if I know this, I'll attain peace, in the previous 5.29. Gyatva mam shantim richati. So if I attain peace, but not just by knowing, but with consciousness endeavoring on that knowing. Otherwise, we know something, but we do something else. And that's not intelligence, because that's duplicity. Sometimes people say, do as I say, not as I do. And that is duplicity, that's hypocrisy. And we talked about this, that one who meditates on the sense objects, one who is trying to do something else while saying completely different thing, that is also referred to as pashandi in Sanskrit, and pakhandi. He's a pretender. So in our life, we are taking to the study of Shastra, and Srila Prabhupada is revealing that by doing this study itself, we can elevate ourselves to spiritual level, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma. Now, how can we easily do that? That is the question. Everyone wants to do it easily, but unknowingly, they're taking the hard path of engaging in a strenuous labor and making sacrifices for the extension of the body and associating with people at the bodily level. So here, the whole program is to spiritualize. Now, Lord Krishna talks about yoga ladder, and Srila Prabhupada explains yoga ladder as different, like yoga ladder. So when you talk of ladder, you're talking of steps, right, on the ladder. So there are different people on different steps, and yoga means connection with the Supreme. So this ladder is going and connecting us with the Supreme. Who is Supreme? Lord Shri Krishna. So if there's a ladder, there's a path that connects us with the Supreme, there are different steps on that ladder. And a person who's on the step 1 is not on the same level of consciousness than the person who's on step 10, who's not on the same level of consciousness than the person who's on step 100. And he is not on the same level of consciousness as one who's on the step 1000, 1000th step. And he is not in the same consciousness as one who is with Lord Shri Krishna. So there are different levels. And this has been revealed again and again, the purpose as well as in Srimad Bhagavatam by Srila Prabhupada. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, the sages at Naimisharanya, they are revealing this knowledge. So even on the Vyasas, and Sutta Goswami is sitting in the chapter 1. And they are revealing that, what is transcendental knowledge, how to recognize absolute truth. Vadanti tattva vidas tattvam yajnanam avyayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagwaniti shabdyate. The learned transcendentalist who know the absolute truth, right? We talked about in setting of the scene that Bhagavad Gita deals with not just Ishwar, but absolute truth. So there are many kind of gods we see, demigods, many kind of small Ishwaras, yet at the same time the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the absolute truth, who is non-dual, he is recognized in 3 forms: Brahmeti at Brahman level, Paramatmeti at Paramatma level, and Bhagwan, Lord Shri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. So the different yogas, practices are also identified on these levels. At the Brahman level, people are, meditating to achieve Brahman. So these are Brahmanvadi, or sometimes also referred to as Mayavadi, when their goal is to merge into Brahman, which is an offense, right? Brahmasmi. We are all Brahman. So the living entity, we are all spiritual souls. So we are already Brahman, but we are in material consciousness because of this material body. We are in contact with the material body. We are riding this material body, which is causing us to forget our true knowledge, our eternal nature, and our blissful nature. So the Satchidanand, that is our nature, because we are qualitatively one with Lord Shri Krishna, but quantitatively different. He is Vibhu, he is unlimited, and he is all potent, and we are Anu, we are very limited. And various examples were discussed in the previous classes, where we are maybe a golden ring, while Lord Krishna is the gold mine. we could be a drop from the ocean. Lord Krishna is the ocean. So yes, a drop of the ocean is same in quality with the ocean water, but ocean is unlimited and a drop is limited. So that is our status. In a great fire, we are a spark coming out from the fire, while Lord Krishna is the fire. So this is the various ways we understand our position. And now, learned transcendentalists who think, as Brahman to be the absolute truth, then they are engaged in speculative knowledge. They actually engage in philosophical discussions, Sankhya Yoga, analytical study. And when they want to merge into, then it becomes an offense. And with offense comes mistakes. So they commit mistakes if they become offended at the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna, thinking that we'll merge into Brahman and we'll become God. If that is the goal, then they become offenders. So that is also very important to understand. And Brahmanvadi, what do? At their level, they understand that, if we engage in activities, and there is karma and vikarma. Karma is, duties, your prescribed duties as per the Shastras. But then you are attached to the fruits. The moment you are performing those duties with attachment to the fruits, it becomes sakam karma yoga, right? So which means there are pious reactions that you have to face because you are enjoying the fruits. So that means you have to take birth again. And then the other one is that you don't follow the Vedas, you don't follow your prescribed duties, and you act whimsically. Those are vikarmas. Vikarmas are impious acts, sinful acts. And so there are sinful reactions that you have to face that cause distress. So in both the cases, you have to take birth in this material world. So they realize, I don't want to engage. So that is the level 0. They have said that, okay, they don't want to engage in any activity. Rather, they spend their time in analytical study. Sankhya Yoga has been described by Lord Krishna when he appeared as son of Devahuti and Kadama Muni. And this was none other than Lord Kapil Dev, who not the one who appeared later on. There was another pretender, Kapil Dev also appeared, but he proposed a Sankhya philosophy which is not bona fide. The bona fide analytical study has been revealed by Kapil Dev, who is son of Devahuti. So that is about Jnana Yogi. And they are immediately called out that not one, the person who is obligated, who works feeling obligated, even considering as a duty. In Karma Yoga we talked about that devotees, bhaktas, they perform duties, the various prescribed duties with love, with devotion. But even if just with the mood of duty, in the mood of duty, if someone is performing various works, then he is a true mystic. He is a true yogi. He is properly connected with Lord Shri Krishna. And not one who lights no fire and performs no duty. So this is referring to the Jnana Yogis who are meditating on Brahman, but they are not acting at that Brahma stage. Right? Brahma bhuta prasannatma na shochati na kankshati samah sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim lapate param. So this is where a person who is at a Brahman stage has to engage in devotional service. Lord Krishna himself reveals. So not he who lights no fire and performs no duty. So that is, we talked about the karmis level and karmis, following. So there is sakam karma yoga. So from above that is nishkam karma yoga. So they are, one is at the level of nishkam karma yoga is a true mystic, not the one who is not doing, who's renouncing the work itself, because that is Falgu Vairagya. Now, how is one going to get spiritualized? People ask this question, right? So Srila Prabhupada explains very nicely that one who is engaged in Nishkam Karma Yoga, understanding that Lord Shri Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is the proprietor of all material and spiritual universes, that person is acting with right consciousness because he is acting to please Lord Shri Krishna. Rishikena Rishikesha. So this particular chapter has 5 main sections, and we can remember these 5 sections with the word focus. So first 9 verses refer to friend or foe. So what is it that we are seeking to control, are seeking to win over, and that is none other than our own mind. So the only limitation we have is ourselves. Our mind can be our friend when it's engaged in devotional service, when it's connected with Lord Shri Krishna, or it can be our greatest enemy if it is seeking material gratification, if it is attracted by the senses, by the sense objects, and wants to enjoy, seek sensual pleasure in this material world. So F in focus refers to friend or foe, referring to the mind. And all the yogis, so the Gyan yogis, they are undertaking knowledge so that they can control the mind with their intelligence. Now, then comes, above that are the ones who are meditating on the super soul, Paramatma in our heart. These are Dhyana yogis, Ashtanga yogis. And we talked about the eightfold mystic system. So they engage in that. Yam, Niyam, Asana, Pranayam, Pratyahara, and so forth. So finally culminating in Samadhi. And they are using various kind of exercises to control their senses and thus control their mind. So they are also looking to control the mind. So they are at a higher level. They are engaging in, but at the same time, Srila Prabhupada reveals that there is a deviation happens. People, they engage in the asanas and pranayam and pratyahara, and then further go about to samadhi, and then finally sticking to, like from dhyan to samadhi. They are trying to look at artificial ways, and that is not yoga. That is not connected with the Supreme, Lord Shri Krishna. So we have seen that many times people, they take to performing asanas, performing pranayam for greater health, right? For better health. And getting better health is good, but that is not the goal. The goal is to attain love of Godhead, to go back home, back to Godhead in this very life. That is the opportunity we have, because we have the human form of life, which is very rare. So this is a perfect boat. In the human form of life, we have higher consciousness, so we can easily use this human form of life. And so at the Ashtanga Yogi, an Ashtanga Yogi is trying to control the senses and thus control the mind, and making the mind friend with the focus of meditating on the super soul. Now we'll also be talking about why it is so difficult to do this. There are various challenges, yet at the same time the third one is bhaktas, the devotees. And these are the ones, devotees, they are constantly engaged in lovingly serving the Lordship, Lord Shri Krishna. So all activities are dovetailed in Lord Shri Krishna the way He wants. Rishikesha, Rishikesha, Sevanam Bhakti Ruchyate. So all the senses are engaged in serving Lord Rishikesha. And that is Sevanam Bhakti Ruchyate. That is the topmost service. That is the proper service. Uchyate, So that is the proper way of serving Lord Shri Krishna. And so we, as devotees, we understand that when we engage our senses in serving Lord Shri Krishna, then that is proper engagement. And that is purifying. That we also talked about in our 5th chapter, how such engagement without attachment to the fruits of the labor, rather whatever fruits we get, we again use that, understanding that Lord Shri Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and seeing Lord Shri Krishna in everything around us. From that perspective, we can continue to engage. So it's a chain reaction that sets up. So that's why a devotee is directly serving Bhagavan, Lord Shri Krishna, and so he is constantly engaging in serving to please Lord Shri Krishna with the proper consciousness that Lord Shri Krishna is the Supreme Proprietor, He is our best friend, and all sacrifices and austerities are meant for His pleasure. Then Srila Prabhupada, he identifies a very important aspect. So we talked about, the various aspects of the ladder, where we talked about karmis. In the Karma Kand, they sometimes come to the level of Sakam Karma Yoga, and then they rise even higher, not having any attachment to the fruits of the labor. so they start to understand what is knowledge, so they come to the level of Jnana Yoga. Then further above them is Ashtanga Yoga, who is seeking Paramatma, and Paramatma has Sat and Chit features, right? While Brahman only has Sat feature, the eternal feature. And then finally the Bhaktas, the devotees, who are fully recognizing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan, Lord Shri Krishna. And the purpose is to spiritualize this body, and this is where people sometimes get bewildered. They say, how can you spiritualize the material body? Well, when you are directly connected with Supreme, right? So that is like a hand is a part of our body, and we use a hand to bring morsel of prasad that has been offered to Lord Shri Krishna, and after it becomes remnant, so it's called prasad. So when we take that prasad, morsel of food, to take to the mouth, so that it feeds the stomach, and so the stomach is fed nicely and the whole body is energized. So Lord Shri Krishna, he is in the center. So stomach is representing in this analogy Lord Shri Krishna. So if we serve Lord Shri Krishna, then we are automatically getting energized. We are also getting purified. So if Lord Krishna is supreme, in connection with him, everything is supreme. His name, form, activities, pastimes, all are supreme. So just like that, so we are part and parcel. And many times people ask, what does it mean, part and parcel? So a hand is part of a body, right? So we are similarly, he is the supreme being, he is Vibhu, and he has various Vibhutis. He is the all-energetic personality, and he has various energies, and they are basically given in three categories. His internal potencies, represented by Radharani, then his external potency, represented by Mahamaya, Goddess Durga, and then his marginal potency, us, living entities. So we are also one of his Vibhutis, but we are we are very limited, yet we are higher than the material energy in our consciousness and qualities. So we are part of the supreme whole. Just like we talked about, a ring is part, the gold in the ring comes from the gold mine. So gold mine is unlimited, but the ring is limited. So we are part, but we are parcel, right? Parcel means that we have all the required, functionality to please Lord Shri Krishna. So each one of us is fully capable at our individual level to serve Lord Shri Krishna. Yet at the same time, when we all serve together, it is more synchronized. Just like, hand, it brings the morsel of food to the mouth, then the mouth, it takes that food, it chews it, tongue engages in mixing it with saliva, then it goes down through the neck, and in the stomach everything is properly done. And to be able to get that morsel of food, our hands and legs, they engage, and eyes and our tongue, they engage in as karma indriyas, right? So the two hands, two legs, our tongue, anus and genitals, so they are engaged in performing various kind of activities using the body. So those activities enable us to earn, and gather the food that we cook, nice bhoga for the Lordship, offer it to the Lordship, and then when we get this prasad, the remnants, then it actually nourishes, purifies our very being. So hand is fully capable of doing the function that we use hand for. So similarly, we, every living entity, is fully capable of carrying out our individual functionality. And when the hand is connected with the body, it has value, right? If you see a hand being, cut off, then it doesn't have value. Srila Prabhupada used to give the example, if a finger is, attached to the body, it has value. But if the finger is cut off, then it has no value. You'll be offended if somebody walks on your finger, steps on your finger, then you'll be offended that, how could somebody hurt you, because it's connected with the body. But if the finger is cut off, or, a part of the finger, then you would not care because it's not connected with the body. While if that cut off part is again connected with the body and is functional, then it is again, it has attained its importance, and it is more valuable than millions and millions of dollars, because you can drive the purpose with that finger. So again, when we are connected with the Supreme, we have a purpose and we have importance in our life. in the eyes of Lord Shri Krishna and his devotees. So that should be the focus. How can we connect? Because all yoga systems are focusing on getting the mind to become our best friend. And Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to say that in the mind, in the morning, beat the mind with your slippers, and at night, beat your mind with the broom, so that it engages in devotional service. So a mind which is engaged in devotional service is our best friend, and a mind which is engaged in sense gratification is our worst enemy. So that is also very important. That's where in focus, F is for friend or a foe. So we have to make an endeavor to engage our mind in serving Lord Shri Krishna. And so when we engage in serving Lord Shri Krishna, and Srila Prabhupada says that this whole program in Krishna consciousness is a program of recreation. We have all kind of enjoyment, all kind of pleasures. It's a anandam buddhivardhanam. So when we engage in Sankirtan Yajna, the Yajna for the current age, with the chanting of the holy name, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa, Hare Hare, Hare Rāma, Hare Rāma, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, then it is a program where, from morning to night, we are constantly engaged in enjoyment. In the morning when we get up, and get ready to chant our rounds, at Brahma Muhurta stage, where the mode of goodness is highly potent, we are chanting, and we are chant and be happy, Srila Prabhupada used to say. So we become joyful, we get energy, we get energized in the morning itself. And so we engage in, morning aarti, evening aarti, and between we do a lot of reading, we do a lot of devotee association, a lot of kirtan, a lot of dancing. So it's a perfect recreation program, because it is performed very happily, very joyfully. Susukham kartum avyayam. So that is the way devotional service is performed. Not like it is a very hard labor and we have to engage in a labor. No, then we are missing out. Then it becomes shamayava hi kevalam. Because we are not understanding the great privilege we are getting through devotional service, through engagement in devotional service. So it becomes our driving force, it becomes our focus, and it dovetails the mind in engaging in serving Lord Shri Krishna. So when we chant, and our mind is very flickering, so it goes away thinking of various sense objects, then we have to just simply pull it back. Please listen, my dear mind, listen to the chanting of the holy name. Listen to this prayer and engage in praying. Sometimes we see the mind is just like a small children, they are constantly engaged, they're constantly busy doing different things. And then you give them something very attractive. They suddenly sit down at one place. You give them a small murti of Lord Shri Krishna, a small deity form of Lord Shri Krishna, a small picture. And then ask them to, say, color the picture or play with the dolls. They're thinking that way. And if they have little consciousness, then they start to, calm down. They start to focus on that. When we feed them prasad, when we pray for them, then of course they get further spiritualized. And we may not see it apparently, but it's acting in a very subtle manner, a very higher platform, right? So they become spiritualized as they continue to work. Another example, analogy that can be given about how we are engaged is like car. Car has various parts. It has Stephanie, it has wheels, it has engine, it has the body, and so forth. So if there is a screw that has gone loose and is lying on a door while the car has passed, that screw on its own doesn't have any value. But when it's attached to the car, it has value because it's keeping everything together. So that's also another way of saying that if we are linked with the Supreme, yoga means connection with the Supreme, linking with the Supreme, then we have value. Otherwise, we don't have value. And when we are linking with the Supreme, then we are experiencing transcendental bliss, anandam buddhi vardhanam. It is an ocean of bliss which is overflowing. Vardhanam means it's increasing. So the ocean is increasing when we are connected with the Supreme. The transcendental bliss that we experience is constantly growing. It is not that constant, it has not become complacent, rather it's constantly growing. So that is an important aspect. So another example is given is with respect to when we water the roots of the tree, then all branches, all twigs, all the trunk of the tree and all the leaves and the flowers and the fruits, they are all nourished properly in the case of a tree. And so, but if a branch is broken from the tree, it's lying on the ground, you don't see it getting nourished, you don't see, rather it withers and it simply dwindles away. Same thing with the flowers, same thing with the fruits. So again, we have to be connected with the Supreme, that is the message, and we have to act with that consciousness. Now, sometimes people say, but how do I see this? Means in 9th chapters we'll be studying, Lord Krishna says, Pratyaksha avagmam dharmam. One can actually observe these changes. Now in the beginning, at a yoga rurukshu stage, which is a beginning stage, people are heavily engaged in devotional service, so that they get, sometimes we engage the devotees in a gyat sukriti. And one of the example we hear is from Jayananda Prabhu. So he was a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, and he was a taxi driver. So many times he would be under the taxi trying to fix the engine or some part of his vehicle. And as he would see someone as passes by, very sweet voice, he would say, hey, can you pass me such and such instrument? Can you pass me the screwdriver? Can you pass me pana? Or, So again, he would call out and he would ask for various, and somebody passing, he's like, oh, okay, there's a person who's trying to fix his car. And they would very nicely, pass him. And, and agyat sukriti is when person doesn't know that he's performing pious act. So the only reason he would drive the taxi was to support the temple. So whatever Jayananda Prabhu would get, he would donate it to the temple. And at the temple, even though he was providing the basic necessities, and even when he was sick, he was facing cancer at that, he had leukemia. So at that time, whatever for medical treatment he was getting, he actually was giving to Srila Prabhupada for book publishing. And so he is highly glorified. Every Rath Yatra, his picture is in the front, kept because of his dedication to serving Lord Shri Krishna and serving his spiritual master Srila Prabhupada. So we learn lessons from such great personalities in our life. And here, an example means, again, we should learn that we need to spiritualize. But how do we spiritualize? What is the process? Then in Padma Purana, it is revealed. Dadati pratigrahanati guhyamakhyati prichati bhunjate bhujyate chaiva sadvidam priti lakshanam. Actually, Dadati, this is the 6 exchanges. There is another one, that our senses are too dull. Na bhaved graham indriya. Sevon mukhehi jivado swayameva spuratyada. So our senses are very dull, and Krishna Nam, his name, form, activities, pastimes, they are not easily manifest to us because of our dull senses. But if we engage our tongue in tasting prasadam, right, in eating prasadam, it gets purified, and in chanting of the holy name. So that's also seva, devotional service. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rāma, Rāma Rāma, Hare Hare. So then, automatically, by engaging our tongue, which is one of the strongest, it is the strongest of the senses, automatically we get purified and Lord manifests to us. Right? Krishna, so again, Lord Krishna's name, form, activities, pastimes, na bhave graham indriya. They are not easily manifest. But by engaging our tongue in serving him, in eating the remnants, the prasad that has been offered to him, and the bhoga has been offered, becomes prasad, and in chanting of his glories, our tongue gets purified. And when the tongue gets purified, our stomach, is very well sustained, and we don't overeat automatically. And then the further senses are properly controlled. And in that way, we become spiritualized because we can see Lord Shri Krishna as he is. So that is the process of how to see Lord Shri Krishna and how to spiritualize the body. Now that we have understood how to spiritualize the body, and this is by constantly meditating on Lord Shri Krishna. So our mind is no more distracted by any of the senses, because the senses are purified. Senses are referred to as snakes, but when the senses are fully in control, these are snakes without fangs, without the teeth, without any poison. So they are harmless because they are constantly engaging in Lord Shri Krishna. And we are constantly engaging in Lord Shri Krishna. Our mind is constantly, engaged 24/7 in, remembering Lord Shri Krishna's name, form, activities, pastimes. Then automatically we are linked with Lord Shri Krishna, and we slowly and slowly, with this engagement, gradually, and in a very easy way, we progress forward. So that has been described, that we progress to the level of Yoga Ruddha, as is revealed in the very first verse, that one who is without attachment to the fruits is carrying out one's prescribed duties. So Swadharma aligned with our Sanatana Dharma. Jivira Sarupa Kṛṣṇa Nityadas. Swadharma are prescribed duties when they are perfectly aligned, because the prescribed duties, when they are aligned to serve Lord Shri Krishna, that is the alignment we are talking about. So both the boats, of Swadharma and Sanatana Dharma are going in the same direction. Otherwise, if we are seeking sense gratification, while we want to spiritually advance, that's like boats going in opposite direction. If we have one foot in each boat, you can understand what's going to happen. Our legs are going to spread, and finally we're going to drown. We will drown in this ocean of nations. So that is important to understand, that we have to properly serve Lord Shri Krishna the way he wants. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Shiksha Ashtaka prayers, he prays to Lord Shri Krishna. Na dhanam na janam na sundarim kavitam va jagadisha kamaye mama janmani janmanishware bhavatad bhaktir hetuki tvai. He is saying, "Oh my dear Lord, O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor to enjoy beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. What I want only is the causeless mercy of your devotional service in my life, birth after birth." So he is not even, so this is Radharani's bhav. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he appeared, Lord Krishna appeared as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the mood of Radharani, right? And the complexion was also of Radharani, tapte kanchana gaurangi, like the golden complexion, the molten gold. So here Lord Krishna is revealing to Arjuna that one has to act in proper knowledge, and one has to engage in serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he's constantly referring to Super Soul, because Dhyana Yoga is the Ashtanga Yoga is being referred here, where one meditates on the Super Soul in the heart. Now it is very interesting that many institutes or many gatherings where they say that you meditate on the void. And Srila Prabhupada challenges that. He says there is no void. As per the Shastras, there is no void in this material world or spiritual world. Everywhere there is something. Means in this material world, we see, either there is air, or if not air, there is space. And Lord Krishna, he has expanded as Brahman. How can there be any void? There is no void anywhere. How can you meditate on void? That is artificial ways of trying to think that I am meditating. But who should you be meditating? Lord Krishna reveals. Then one should seek out the Super Soul in the heart, right? And then meditate on that Super Soul form. The Super Soul form has the 4 arms and is holding Gada, Chakra, Padma, Shankh. So that is the form that has been recommended for a yogi, and that actually picture has also been provided here. So this is where a yogi is meditating on the beautiful form of Lord Shri Krishna, who is expanded as Super Soul. And Super Soul has 2 potencies, Sat and Chit, full of knowledge and eternity. And Super Soul is, Lord has expanded. This is also in Srimad Bhagavatam we hear. This is Shirodakshai Vishnu, who is expanding. And it is not that I have a different Super Soul and you have a different Super Soul in our heart. It is the same Super Soul who has expanded in this material universe and has filled it completely. So he is in my heart as well, he is in your heart as well. And various examples have been given in the Shastras, that just like if you have thousands of pots of water and during daytime you can see the reflection of sun in these pots. So again, that's one example of saying that how Lord, He is expanding everywhere super soul, because in each pot there is reflection of sun. Another example Srila Prabhupada gave was that I could be here during the daytime and I could be calling out another friend of mine during the daytime, and I say, I see sun here, where do you see sun? So, on the east coast it may be noon, but on the west coast in US it may be morning, because we have a 3 hours difference. Even in India, from east coast to west coast they have a 2-hour difference, but IST does not make that difference. It does not introduce the time gap. So it's very interesting that it appeared like bright morning, at 5 a.m. while it is all dark in Bombay because of the 2-hour gap. And so it's easier to perform, get up during the Brahma Muhurta stage in Calcutta or in Mayapur, because it's already bright morning, you can see the sun rising, while in the Bombay area, the sun hasn't even risen, it's completely dark. And by the time the sunrise, and Brahma stage actually time is defined by the sunrise, not by IST, and sometimes that's why people, they get bewildered. So Brahma Muhurta 1.5 hours before the sunrise, and that should be the reference used. So we use that reference, and to get up early and start chanting. And we want to finish actually during the Brahma Muhurta stage itself, so that we are ready, fully energized to carry out our activities. And this is the mind of a yogi, where one attains various yogic siddhis, and they are meditating on the Supreme, and they can actually get various kind of mystic powers. That's why the word mystic has been used by Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa. And all yogis, whether we talk about Karma Yogi, we talk about Dhyana Yogi, we talk about Jnana Yogi, or we talk about the devotees, bhaktas, engaged in devotional service, all of them, all kind of yogis are seeking to control the mind. And as we'll hear in chapter 12, Mayyeva manadhat swamai buddhim niveshya. So constantly thinking of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, he is saying that by constant thinking of me, you should engage your intelligence, all your activities in me, so which means in his service for his pleasure. So that is the mood of a devotee. Now, after friend and foe, and if one's mind has become a friend, then in focus, O stands for order in yoga practice. So now here Lord Kṛṣṇa is revealing to Arjuna the various kind of procedural activities in Ashtanga Yoga system. He is saying that a yogi should go to a nice place in jungle. Now jungle has been identified because forest is where it's mode of goodness. City is in the mode of passion, right? And there are places which are completely abominable places, which are in the mode of ignorance. No human would want to live in such places, so that's in the mode of ignorance. However, temple, wherever it is, it is transcendental to this material world. So when you go to the temple, we suddenly feel peace. Why? Because our soul experiences that transcendental bliss. It gets that glimpse of transcendental bliss when we see the beautiful form of deities. And just seeing the beautiful form of deities, all our senses are pacified, and we feel joyful, and we start dancing when the kirtan is going on. While if we see in material world the material beauty, then it only agitates the mind. It's like fire, it heats us up, our senses are burning because of that. Rather than that, we want our senses to be satisfied, so it's better to look at the beautiful form of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, to see his deity form, to read Bhagavad Gita, Śrīmad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, to engage in the chanting of the holy name. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa, Hare Hare, Hare Rāma, Rāma Rāma, Hare Hare. So here Lord Kṛṣṇa is saying that a mystic, a yogi should go to the jungle, which is the mode of goodness, and there they should lay down the grass, and then they should lay down skin, deer skin on top of it, and then a soft cloth, and then sit on it and meditate, keeping his eyes half closed and focusing on the tip of the nose. He should meditate on the super soul in the heart. Now when he is referring, he is also identifying that such a person should not be meditating, so the mind should not be thinking of sense objects, should not be seeking sensual pleasure, but rather should be controlled to focus on the super soul in the heart. And so here, this is from 10th verse to 27th verse. Lord Kṛṣṇa is describing in these 18 verses as how the Ashtanga Yoga process needs to be followed. How one simply, in the beginning, there is a lot of activities, a lot of asanas and pranayama and so forth. But as person grows, his material activities slowly and slowly they diminish. And in devotional service, when the devotees are constantly serving Lord Shri Krishna, that is the program, that you want to reduce your material desires and continue to engage in serving Lord Shri Krishna. So automatically one comes to samadhi when engaging in serving Lord Shri Krishna, carrying out various activities, taking care of deities, cooking in the kitchen, cleaning the temple hall, arranging the books, going on Sankirtan. These are all transcendental activities which can automatically keep us in that samadhi state. We are constantly in trance, meditating on Lord Shri Krishna when we are working for Him, constantly thinking of other devotees and how wonderful these devotees are and so forth. So here, then the next, when Lord Krishna is revealing this, Arjuna is getting little disturbed, and in focus sees for characteristics. One, in this consciousness, when connecting in serving Lord Shri Krishna, when meditating on the super soul, when carrying out analytical study, one starts to develop various qualities in one's body. The character starts developing, and that is with the perfection of yoga. One starts to realize that Lord Krishna is as the super soul. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He has expanded as super soul, as Paramatma in our heart, and one becomes free of all material miseries. It's not that the material miseries don't occur. One does not get affected. Understand that these are external factors, and of them there are three kinds of miseries, right? Which is, miseries from mind, miseries from other living entities, and miseries from natural disturbances. Adi Adhyatmik is from mind, miseries from mind. Adi Bhautik is miseries from other living entities, and Adhyatmik is coming from the demigods through natural disturbances. So one becomes free, and as he is not affected. So yes, miseries are happening, but he is not suffering. He is not affected so much. He stays calm and accepts it as wish of Lord Shri Krishna, and he becomes joyful. He becomes happy, and happily he is engaged in devotional service, because the soul, the bird in the cage, is being properly nourished, is being properly taken care of. We ourselves are properly taken care of. While we should take care of the body, because that is the vehicle that has been given to us so that we can advance quickly. And in this state, one understands that Lord Krishna is everywhere. He is in everything. So he connects everything with Lord Shri Krishna. So we see Lord Krishna in everything. We see other devotees, other living entities. We see, oh yes, Lord is as super soul in their heart. So we covered in 518. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavi Hastini Shunicheva Shvapakecha Pandita Samadarshinaha. So with proper knowledge, a Pandita, one who knows things, he becomes Samadarshi. He sees everyone with equal vision. And just as the verse says, he sees a Brahman, a cow, an elephant, a dog and a dog eater with equal vision, because he understands that super soul is in their heart. Sometimes people say, oh, that means I have become God already. Aham Brahmasmi. No. There is soul and there is super soul. Both are in the body. So that is also an important aspect. We as soul are there in the body. Because of us, the consciousness in the body, and super soul is there as overseer and permitter. So we living entities get desires, right, as what we want. And these desires would have to be first approved by Lord Shri Krishna, who is appearing as super soul in our heart, who has expanded and is present as super soul. And the super soul, when he permits it, then this material body, the material senses, they carry out those functions. So that's why it is said that senses are very gross. Atah Shri Krishna namadi na bhave grahayam indriya sevonmukhehi jivado swayameva spurutadya. So it is when these gross senses that they cannot understand, they cannot see, they cannot experience the name, form, activities, pastime of Lord Shri Krishna. When we engage our senses, especially our tongue, in serving Lord Shri Krishna by accepting the prasad, by eating the prasad, by engaging in devotional service, by chanting the holy name, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, that we get purified and Lord manifests to us, right? So that is an important aspect. So one becomes Samadarshi, he sees everything and he rises above the dualities, right? At the absolute form, Brahma Bhuta stage, as we discussed. So at that stage of Brahma Bhuta, one does not feel, is not in relative world. He is not of this world, but we are not of this world, we are in this world, as we discussed earlier as well. So Arjuna, he rejects Ashtanga Yoga. He says that, my dear Lord Shri Krishna, the process you have explained seems to be very difficult to perform. And, it just does not seem very practical. And he is also saying, and to subdue the mind is very difficult. He is saying, Chanchalam hi manah Krishna pramati balvadradham tasyaham nigraham manye vayur iva sudushkaram. He is saying mind is restless, right? It is chanchalam. Chanchalam is restless. And it is turbulent, right? It is full of, it's very flickering. So that turbulence is pramad. So it is very turbulent. It's obstinate and balvad and very strong, and it's dridam. So again, it's very strong, it's very obstinate. To subdue it, Arjuna is rejecting. Now Lord Krishna is telling Arjuna that yes, this is a yoga process. So yes, it is a bona fide process. But Arjuna, who appeared in the Dwapar age, and Dwapar age people could live 1,000 years. The lifespan was, average lifespan was 1,000 years. But in this age, we only have 100 years. So you can imagine, he has 10 times more lifespan and he is finding it difficult. Why? Because Dhyana Yoga was practiced in the Satya Yuga. And one had to meditate, practice Dhyana Yoga for tens of thousands of years. Because in Satya Yuga, people had an average lifespan of 100,000 years. So they could practice it because it was still doable for them. It is very difficult for us. And Lord Krishna actually agrees with Arjuna in chapter 12, chapter 12 on Bhakti Yoga and devotion service. He actually reveals to Arjuna, Klesho hi taraste sham avyakta sakta chet sam avyakta hi gatir vyapam dehavad vir vyapate. So one who is unmanifest is very difficult to be perceived by one, who is manifest. So we, with our gross senses, it is very difficult. So it is a very gradual, very slow process, and it requires a lot of practice and many, many years of practice to meditate and to be able to see the Supersoul and meditate on the Supersoul to attain that Samadhi state. Yet attaining the Samadhi state gives us mystic powers. And one has to come to the level of devotional service. One has to engage in devotional service to really get out of this material world. Because a mystic otherwise can only, transfer himself using the various mystic powers to different places, even when in this body. So now Lord Krishna says, yes, Arjuna, it is difficult, but one can, by controlling, bring in the mind again and again, and in gradual continue to progress, one can advance. Yet at the same time, it takes a long time. Srila Prabhupada reveals, and the scriptures reveal that it takes a long time, tens of thousands of years. Prachetas, they meditate underwater for 10,000 years. And then they were able to see Lord Krishna. And when Lord Krishna appeared, he said that I am very happy as how you 10 brothers are collaborating with each other, how you are cooperating with each other. So that is also a great quality, devotee association. So we have to always be in devotee association. Now Arjuna has another doubt which refers to you in focus. Unsuccessful yogi. If somebody is unsuccessful in their yoga practice, then what is the destination? What is the path? How do they progress? And Arjuna is referring to, with a very nice analogy, as a riven cloud. So when there are, a whole bunch of clouds, they are floating in the sky, and suddenly the wind takes away in a different direction a small cloud. It becomes a riven cloud, taken away from the main clouds, and it does not attain success, does not go back home, back to Godhead. Then what happens to such an unsuccessful yogi? Lord Krishna reveals that such an unsuccessful yogi who has not attained the goal of life, who has not yet attained the prem, the love of Godhead, the goal of life, then if he is an advanced stage, then he takes birth in the family of a transcendentalist. So quickly he has the opportunity to come back to his original state where he was in his previous birth and progress further. Now pay attention. So human birth is guaranteed. Further quick recovery to your previous state is guaranteed by Lord Shri Krishna, where you can continue to progress further above and thus attain love of Godhead. Second reference could be, somebody could ask, like, okay, what happens if one is not advanced in Krishna consciousness? One is not advanced in their yogi practice. What happens to them? So they, Lord Krishna says, go to the planet of the pious people. So they get to the higher planetary system where pious people reside, and they are further purified, and then finally they come back to earth and they take birth in an aristocratic family. So many of you who are born in an aristocratic family, you are practicing Krishna consciousness in your previous birth, and after many such opportunities, many such births, you finally come to, after enjoying at the pious planets with the pious people, you have come back to the earth so that you can again take to Krishna consciousness. So the opportunity is there. Whether we avail the opportunity or get distracted by material energy in sense gratification, that is our choice. That is free will. So Lord Krishna, He doesn't want us to work like machines or robots as per His will. Rather, He wants us to love, just like a father wants his son to love on, son's desire. He wants, because that is true reflection. Even if there is no reason and somebody is dealing with affection, that is true reflection of love. And also, one of the definition of love is when Lord Krishna is in the center, when everyone is cooperating with each other and having this loving exchanges, as we talked about, giving each other gifts, sharing prasadam, discussing about the name, form, activities and pastimes of Lord Shri Krishna. These are the symptoms of loving exchanges. And when we are engaged in loving exchanges with Lord Krishna in the center, that is love. And we keep our senses in the center, that is lust. So that is very important to understand. And so even a person who has taken to Krishna consciousness and does not attain is in a beginning stage, in an early stage, he gets to enjoy in the planets of the pious. Now from the Vedic process, if somebody is following Vedas, which are also coming from Lord Shri Krishna, but they are seeking to enjoy, and so they engage in various kind of Vedic sacrifices to go to the heavenly planets. They have to have very hard endeavor. They have to engage in very hard endeavor. And then when they go to the heavenly planets, that duration is still limited. So they are still going for temporary. And then they finally fall down back on earth. But their next birth is not guaranteed. They may fall into a lower yoni. But for a devotee for a person who has taken to devotional service, even in the very early stage, if he, doesn't, loses his life, he goes to the planet of the pious, to the heavenly planet, and comes back and again guaranteed to get a human form of life. So there is a great boon that other processes don't give you. And sometimes people say, what about the Jnanis? They are acquiring so much knowledge. Lord Krishna reveals, Bahunam janva namante jnanvamam prapadyate. So yes, Jnanis do come and take to devotional service, but after many, many births. And we know that birth, death, old age, disease, these are miseries, these are very painful events. Why go through so much painful events after many, many births following the Jnana Yoga process to come to devotional service? Why don't you just take devotional service, which is easy, which is joyful? It is a perfect recreation program, and we are all in this together with Sankirtan Yajna progressing. Last but not the least, verse 46 to 47 refer to the topmost yogis. So in focus as referred to super yogi, who's the supreme among all the yogis, right? This Lord is Yogeshwar, yes, but among the yogis, among the living entities who are endeavoring to attain the Supreme, who is the Super Yogi. And this is revealed by Lord Shri Krishna. So the 46th verse, Lord Krishna is saying, Tapasvibho adhiko yogi jnanebhyo bhimato adhikaha karma bhish chadhiko yogi tasmad yogi bhavarjuna. So, tapas vibhyo adhiko yogi. A yogi is greater than ascetic, right? One who is meditating just in jungle and not really engaging in devotional service. And jnanebhyo api mato adhikaha. A yogi is greater than a jnana yogi, a jnani, person in knowledge. And karma bhish chadhiko yogi. A yogi is greater than the karmis, the one who is engaging as a fruity worker. The yogi is greater than that. And tasmad yogi bhavarjuna. She is saying that, O Arjun, therefore in all circumstances be a yogi, be a mystic, be in serving, engage in serving Lord Shri Krishna. And then he is identifying who's the super yogi. First he is identifying why to be a yogi, and who's among the yogis the topmost yogi. Yoginam api sarvesham madgate nantaratmana shaddavan bhajate yo mam same yukta tamo mataha. And then Lord Krishna is revealing that of all the yogis, the one with great faith, who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental service to me, he is the most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. That is my opinion. So Lord Krishna's opinion is that whoever engages in constantly remembering Lord Shri Krishna, understanding that, everything, Lord has expanded into everything, and all, he is the energetic, and there are various energies, and energy and energetic cannot be separated. So everything should be used in Lord Shri Krishna's service. So that is proper Krishna consciousness. We, living entities, are his marginal potency. The body that we get is from the material energy. So all energies should be dovetailed in serving Lord Shri Krishna. And when we engage in that manner, constantly endeavoring to please him, that is what gets us to the level of the topmost yogi, the super yogi. And that is Lord's own opinion, because he says that one who is engaged in serving me, always meditating on me, considering me to be the goal of life, and rendering loving transcendental service, lovingly devoted. We engage all our activities with mind, body and words in serving Lord Shri Krishna, then we automatically become intimately united, right? Intimately, it's an inner circle. We enter that inner circle of Lord Shri Krishna, and united with Lord Shri Krishna in yoga, we are directly connected with Lord Shri Krishna, and we attain the supreme goal, go back home, back to Godhead in serving Lord Shri Krishna. So that is the focus of today's chapter in Dhyana Yoga, where we understood it from the perspective of focus. F stands for friend or foe, which is mind. By engaging in devotional service, we can make it a friend, and thus it can be our friend, and we can continue to serve and progress and spiritualize our very existence. Otherwise, if the mind is meditating on senses, then it just stays our greatest enemy, our foe, and causes our fall down, and various miseries and sufferings follow. The second section, O, is of order in yoga practice, where we talked about from 10 to 27 the Ashtanga Yoga, how the process flows. And then in focus, C stands for character, the various qualities, the consciousness with which we work, and the characters that we develop, the various ways we deal with others, our outlook changes, right? That leads to realization that Lord Krishna as the super soul in everyone's heart. That's from verse 28 to 36. Then U is where we discuss unsuccessful yogi's path, and that is from verse 37 through 45. And finally, S is for super yogi in focus, which is verse 46 and 47. So at all times we should endeavor, we should make a sincere effort to be a yogi, to constantly lovingly serve Lord Shri Krishna. So that is where Dhyana Yoga ends, and now we will be covering chapter 7 in the next class. And the process is very simple because it starts simply with the chanting of the holy name. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. One final point I do want to identify, that in this chapter, determination has been identified, that one should be very determined. And the story of sparrow whose eggs were taken away by the ocean. So the sparrow has very limited capacity but was very determined. It says, ocean, return my eggs. And the ocean says, I won't return. Thinking it's a sparrow. What can the sparrow do? The sparrow says, I will dry you up. The ocean laughs. So the sparrow is so determined, the husband and wife, they are determined, so they start with their small beaks, just few drops of water from the ocean and putting on the sand. They are doing this continuously. So the birds, they get to know that there is this sparrow trying to dry up the ocean. When Kṛṣṇa hears, he is the king of the birds, then he is amazed, and he goes and sees that how devotedly the sparrow is taking, and she is asking ocean to return, otherwise she will dry. So with determination, with strong determination, she is picking a few drops of ocean water and putting on the sand. So impressed with her determination, Kṛṣṇa goes and says, okay, I will take up, as my sister, I will take up your task. And then he approaches ocean and he says, if you don't return her eggs, I will dry you up. Now, looking at Kṛṣṇa, ocean realizes, yes, he can dry up the ocean, so immediately returns the eggs. So this is determination. Another example Srila Prabhupada covers is that of Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi, he drove this movement in India, non-violence, no non-cooperation movement. So he said that I will not use any weapons. So British Empire was very powerful. Yet at the same time, with this policy of non-cooperation and non-violence, he drove Britishers out of India. And his determination came from his experience in Africa, in South Africa, where after 36 years of age, Mahatma Gandhi, he reduced his bodily demands. So that is something we all have to understand, that we can get determination when we reduce our bodily demands, eat, sleep, and mating. So defense is also there, but we take shelter of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, so he provides us protection. So the basic, on the bodily level, we are seeking eat, sleep, mate, defend, and these four characteristics are even common with all the other living entities, the animals, cats, dogs, and others. So we have to reduce these demands. So virtually Mahatma Gandhi had become, after 36 years of age, a brahmachari. Even though in a householder life, he was a brahmachari, he was not engaging. So again, in a householder life, we have to focus on our spiritual progress. And so he became so strong that he was able to develop that strong determination, that determination of non-cooperation, non-violence. In that manner, he was able to drive one of the biggest empire out of India. So please, seek to engage in serving Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, read Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Chaitanya Charitamrita, engage in Sankirtan Yajna, chant with the devotees, sing with the devotees, hear about Lord's pastimes from the devotees, and thus automatically our determination will grow. And Utsahan Nishayat Dhairya Tat Tat Karma Pravartana Sangatyaga Sato Vriddhe Sadbir Bhakti Prasiddhati. So our devotional service will automatically grow if we do it with enthusiasm, utsahan. And then nishchayat is determination, and from determination, if you are determined, all other qualities, even utsaha and patience, they come. And dhairyat, we have to be very patient in a process. We cannot expect anything to be just manifested right now for our desires. No, we have to seek it to please Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa. We have to constantly make endeavor, because everything is connected with Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa. We have to see the things as they are, not the way as we want to see. And tat tat karma pravartanat is engagement in a 9 process of devotional service. And sangatyaga, so this is atsat sangatyaga, people who are envious and they are offenders at the lotus feet of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa. We should give up their association. Sato vritti prasiddhati, following in the footsteps of acharyas in the devotee association. So these will lead to bhakti prasiddhati. This will increase our devotion. It will increase and help us progress on our devotional path in our spiritual journey. Hare Krishna. Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Anant Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Nitai Go Premanande. Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.